My name is Amanda, I'm 40 years old, and I live in Chicago. My husband and I don't have kids, and most people think our life is perfect. I work as a marketing manager at a large company, make good money, and own a condo in an upscale neighborhood. My husband Brian is also successful. He's a lawyer, works long hours, and is rarely home. We've been together for 7 years, and while our life looks flawless from the outside, something in our relationship has been off for a long time. Over the years, we've become more like friends than a married couple. He comes home late, exhausted, and the only thing on his mind is work. Intimacy between us has become rare, and the romance is completely gone. It frustrated me, made me feel unwanted and lonely. I wanted to feel desired again, to feel beautiful, attractive, irresistible. To break out of the routine, I signed up for a fitness club. At first, it was just a hobby. Working out helped me stay in shape and relieve stress. But over time, there was another reason I never missed a single session. The morning was gloomy, and once again I woke up alone. Brian had already left for work, leaving a note on the kitchen table with yet another reminder about some business meeting. It was routine, predictable. I didn't even have anyone to share my morning coffee with. That day, I made a decision. It was time to change something in my life. I opened my laptop and started searching for fitness clubs nearby. I had always envied those women who looked polished, fit, confident. I wanted that too. I wanted to feel desired, strong, irresistible. Within minutes, I found a modern gym not far from me. Bright, spacious, with professional trainers. Without a second thought, I signed up for a trial session. The next day, I stepped into the fitness club for the first time. The air smelled fresh, a mix of metal from the machines and the subtle scent of people determined to push their limits. Mirrors reflected the bodies of those working hard on themselves. I felt a little lost. This was my first time in a place like this. "Do you need a personal trainer?" a friendly receptionist asked. I hesitated. I had no idea where to start. Exercises, form, routine. It was all new to me. "Yes, I think I could use some help," I finally replied after a brief pause. The receptionist smiled and nodded. "We have a great trainer. His name is Nick, very experienced, and he knows how to connect with everyone. Want me to introduce you?" I hesitated for just a moment. "Yes, let's do it." And at that very moment, my life began to change. The moment I first saw Nick, I knew he was the type of man who was well aware of his effect on women. Tall, athletic, with confident brown eyes and a playful smile. His black t-shirt hugged his muscular arms, and his workout pants accentuated a perfectly sculpted physique. "New here?" he asked, looking me over with mild curiosity. I nodded, feeling a bit nervous. "Yeah, it's my first time at the gym. I have no idea where to start." His smile widened as he reached out his hand. "Nick, nice to meet you, Amanda. I promise after a few sessions you'll feel right at home here." His voice was deep, steady, almost soothing, but there was an undeniable hint of playfulness in it. We started with the basics, proper warm-ups, fundamental exercises, breathing techniques. He watched me closely, correcting my movements, occasionally touching me, light, almost imperceptible touches. "Relax, you're way too tense," he said, stepping behind me to help with the weights. His hands covered mine, and I felt the warmth of his skin. I took a deep breath, trying to focus on the workout, but my mind kept drifting back to him. There was something about his confidence, the way he moved beside me, the way his gaze lingered on me just a little longer than necessary. Each session became more than just physical training. It was a moment where I felt truly alive. I started choosing tighter leggings, prettier tops, even paying more attention to my hair. I wanted him to see me as more than just another client. "You're making great progress," he said after one session, his eyes locking onto mine. "That's all thanks to you. I replied, pausing for a moment in front of the mirror. Something shifted in his gaze, and at that moment, I knew this was more than just training. I knew I was playing with fire, but I couldn't stop. I started catching myself looking forward to my sessions with Nick more than anything else in my life. It wasn't just about working out, it was my escape. An escape from routine, from empty conversations with my husband, from those silent evenings when even a glass of wine couldn't save me from feeling completely alone. Nick became my motivation. His voice, his touch, even his scent, all of it blended into a cocktail of forbidden pleasure. I started lingering after workouts, drinking my water a little slower, adjusting my hair in the mirror, hoping he would notice, and he did. "You're looking extra hot today," he said one day as I was doing squats. I glanced up at him, trying to hide a small smile. "Is that a compliment or an evaluation of my workout?" "Both," he replied, holding my gaze. Something in his tone made my heart race. The tension between us was obvious, no longer just professional, but something deeper, something edging dangerously close to the line of no return. One evening after our session, I stayed in the locker room longer than usual. My body was still burning from the workout as I wiped the sweat from my skin, when suddenly the door opened and he walked in. "Still here?" he asked, his eyes glinting with that familiar spark. "Yeah, lost track of time." I felt him step closer. The air between us grew thick. His hand grazed my shoulder, fingers trailing down, making me freeze in place. "You knew you were playing with fire, didn't you?" he whispered. I took a deep breath but didn't back away. I wasn't interested in holding back anymore. He didn't ask for permission. He simply leaned in, his lips brushing against my neck. And in that moment, all my doubts melted away into this forbidden moment. I held my breath. His lips barely brushed against my neck, sending a shiver down my spine. I should have pulled away, said, "No," stopped him. But I did none of those things. Nick moved in closer, his hand sliding down to my waist, gentle but sure. I closed my eyes, feeling the heat of his breath teasing my skin. "Is this what you want?" he whispered, his gaze locking onto mine. "Yes." The word left my lips before I even had time to think. His hands pressed me against the locker, his body so close I could feel every muscle, every movement. Our lips met, and the world around us disappeared. The kiss started slow, deliberate, like we were savoring the moment, but quickly turned deeper, more intense. His hands traced my thighs, pulling me against him. My breathing quickened, my heart pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. "You're so..." His words faded between kisses, his fingers exploring with confidence, unraveling the desire that had been building between us for so long. I was drowning in the sensation of him, his touch, his body, the way he consumed every inch of my thoughts. Nothing else mattered except this moment, right here, right now. We both knew this was forbidden. We both understood this wasn't just a game. It was raw, undeniable passion that had been smoldering between us all along. I had no idea what would happen next. I didn't think about the consequences. In that moment, I didn't care. Nick no longer held back. His hand slid over my body, leaving trails of heat. I felt the desire rising between us like a wave that was about to crash over us completely. His lips found mine again, and this time the kiss was deeper, bolder. I wrapped my arms around his neck, pulling him closer, feeling his breath mix with mine. My fingers ran up his back, moving to his short hair, gripping him as if trying to hold on to this moment forever. His fingers traced my body, gentle but confident, making me hold my breath. We both knew there wasn't much time left, that someone could walk in at any moment. But the risk only fueled the fire. His hands slid lower, pulling me against him, closer, tighter. I felt his strength, his hunger, and in that moment, all I wanted was to melt into him, into this forbidden passion that had been building for weeks. Our movements became faster, more desperate. A wave of heat rushed through me, and I could no longer control my emotions, couldn't stop the soft moans escaping my lips. Nick could feel my response. He knew exactly what he was doing. His touch became even more assertive, more daring. He pressed me against the locker, locking me in his embrace as if afraid I might pull away. I leaned into him, feeling how he ignited something inside me, something I had been missing for years. "You're incredible," he rasped, his voice low, husky, filled with desire. I couldn't answer. I could only feel the world around me dissolving, my entire body tensing in anticipation of the final moment. And then, suddenly, the locker room door swung open. The locker room door swung open with a slight creak, and I quickly pushed myself away from Nick, trying to catch my breath. My heart was pounding so loudly, it felt like the entire gym could hear it. Nick instantly stepped back, staring at the doorway. I turned and saw the cleaning lady, an older woman in the club's uniform, who froze for a moment before giving a reserved nod, her face betraying no emotion. "Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt," she muttered, before disappearing through the door. The silence that followed was deafening. I took a few deep breaths, trying to steady myself, while Nick ran a hand through his hair, as if he too was gathering his thoughts. "That was risky," he finally said, a small smile tugging at his lips, though his eyes were still tense. I swallowed hard, adjusting my clothes to make myself look more presentable. "Yeah, and probably really stupid," I replied, though inside I was still burning from what had just happened. Nick took a step closer, reaching out as if to touch me again, but I backed away. "We should stop," I said, trying to regain my senses. He stared at me for a moment, as if weighing something in his mind. "Is that really what you want?" he asked quietly. I wanted to say no again. I wanted to give in to this desire just one more time. But deep down, I knew. We had already crossed a line, and there was no going back. "Yes," I lied, because I knew that if I told the truth, it would happen all over again. Nick nodded, his smile turning more reserved, colder. "All right, if that's what you want." I looked at him one last time, so attractive, so tempting, and without another word, I walked out of the locker room, leaving behind the scent of my perfume and memories that could never be erased. I walked out of the locker room as if leaving everything behind, but in reality, this story was only beginning to haunt me. On the way home, my mind kept replaying the last few minutes. The warmth of his touch, the depth of his gaze, the way he said my name. I tried to convince myself that it was just an impulse, that I wouldn't give in to this passion again. But as I rode the elevator up to my apartment, I realized my hands were still trembling. At home, I was met with the familiar silence. Brian, as always, was working late. I looked at his suit, neatly hung in the closet, at our wedding photo standing on the shelf. I felt a strange mix of guilt and excitement. I knew I should let this go, erase it from my memory. But how do you forget something that made you feel alive for the first time in years? The next day I walked into the gym as if nothing had happened. Nick showed no sign of anything, but there was something different in his eyes. Like he knew that our story wasn't over yet. Maybe it was just one night of passion, a fleeting memory that would fade. Or maybe this was only the beginning of something I wouldn't be able to stop. I took a deep breath and stepped into the gym, knowing that I would never be the same woman I was before.